Moving on, now in this exercise, we're going to be looking at using the asset and depreciating the asset. So the previous few videos, we had talked about the acquisition. So here we have on January 1st, Speedy Delivery Company that purchases a delivery van for $90,000. That's the acquisition price. We estimate that this van is going to have, at the end of its 6-year life, service life, it's going to be worth $30,000. So we're estimating this to be the salvage value. We can sell it for $30,000 at the end of 6 years. During the 6 years, we expect to drive the van 200,000 miles. So these are all 90,000. I know for sure. Everything else is an estimate. We've been asked to calculate the annual depreciation for the first 2 years using each of these 3 methods. We're going to do it for all 6 years. It's relatively simple once you get started with it. So we'll do the straight line method, double declining balance method, and the activity-based method. For the activity-based method, we've been given additional information, and we'll see how we'll work our way through with this. So here we have, first thing in my notes, I'm going to look for the basic information. What is the original cost of the asset? That's $90,000. So let me write that down over here. When did I acquire this asset? Dates are very important. We're going to assume it's the current year 1/1/2024. The life of the asset is 6 years. Estimated salvage value, we think we can sell it for $30,000 at the end of 6 years. And we estimate we can drive this a total of 200,000 miles. We've been given the usage for the actual usage in these years. So I'm not going to write those down over here because I'll show you how I do my calculation over here. Let's start out with the straight line method. This is the easiest method and the most popular method for financial reporting purposes. Here I will first calculate the annual depreciation. The formula is the original cost minus the estimated salvage value. This is also, the numerator is also referred to as the depreciation base. This is the total amount I will depreciate. I want to depreciate it down to the salvage value. This is going to be spread evenly over the estimated useful life. So here in this exercise, the original cost is $90,000. Estimated salvage value is $30,000. That's in the numerator. That will be $60,000. And the life is 6 years. So 90 minus 30 is 60,000 divided by 6. That gives me the annual depreciation at $10,000 per year. So here I have a table set up where I'll write down my depreciation. So each year, my depreciation expense is going to be $10,000. So this $10,000, I'm going to copy the number over and put it over here. Oops, actually, that is not a good idea, copying the numbers because of cell referencing. So I'll work my way around with that problem over here. So every year, my depreciation expense is exactly the same as the year before, $10,000 every single year. I've spread it evenly over 6 years, and I'm depreciating a total of $60,000. So let me just wait a little space so I can show you the total depreciation is 60. That's what I had in the numerator. So the straight line method, the name, basically, if you plot this in a chart where you have this in the x-axis in years, and then in the y-axis, you have the depreciation expense, and you connect the dots for 6 years, you will get a straight line. That's why it's called straight line method of depreciation. So very, very easy, which is why it's very popular. Now let's move on and look at the second method, which is the activity method. Here what we'll do is we'll calculate the rate of depreciation per unit of whatever this activity is. So for the delivery van, they're measuring activity in miles that can be driven. The numerator is going to be exactly the same as you had in the straight line method, original cost minus estimated salvage value. So it's that same $60,000. 90 minus 30 is 60,000. In the denominator, here we had 6 years. Here we will have the activity. So instead of years, we will have the activity as 200,000 miles. So 60,000 divided by 200,000 is going to give me depreciation at the rate of 30 cents per mile. Now, I need to know how many miles I've driven this van each year in order to calculate the depreciation expense. So unlike the straight line method where I know the minute I buy the asset and I have decided on some basics, I know what the depreciation expense will be over the life of the asset. Here I'm going to wait and each year I will calculate it. So for year one, it's 32,000 times 0.3. So 9,600 is the depreciation. The second year, it's going to be 75,000 times 0.3. That's 22,500. The next year, 64,000 0.3. And then it's going to be 25,000 times 0.3. And then the fifth year, I have 4,000 times 0.3. Now they've given me 5 years worth of information. Let me add this up and see what I come up with over here. When I add this up, this adds up to $60,000. So basically what's happened is in this information that's been given here, they're saying by the time we get to the end of the fifth year, this asset is done with. So this is my 200,000 miles are already driven, and I don't think I'm going to drive it beyond the fifth year. And you can see the usage has dropped dramatically in the fifth year. So this is not uncommon where you will see where the usage is going to tell you that as the asset gets older, I'm going to use it less. It's less likely to be useful moving forward. Okay. Now, both these methods relatively easy. Numerator original cost minus estimated salvage value. That's the same in both cases. Denominator for the straight line method, I took the years. I calculated annual depreciation. I can plug that in all the way through. For the activity-based method, I calculate the rate of depreciation. And then I have to wait until the end of each year to see how many miles I drove the van before I can calculate the depreciation. Now, what you will see is the more miles I drive, the more I'm going to depreciate the asset. So it kind of makes a lot of sense to use the usage method if you can measure the usage of that, the activity of that particular asset. Now let's move on to this third method. This is the double declining balance method. And this method is a little different in that the way we set it up, this information is a little different. So the first piece of information that we have here is, that I have for you over here is, ignore the salvage value until you get to the end, until the last year or towards the end. So upfront, I'm not going to take that into account at all. I start out with the beginning value. Beginning book value of the asset is going to be the same. It's going to be the same as the original cost of the asset. When I start, that's the book value of the asset. I need to calculate the rate of depreciation, and here's how I do that. First, calculate the rate under the straight line method, which is basically 1 divided by life. So the life is 6 years. So straight line rate is 1 divided by 6. 1/6 each year is the depreciation. Since this is a double declining balance method, in step 2, I will multiply that number by 2, what I got in step 1. So 1/6 multiplied by 2 gives me 1/3. That's the depreciation rate I'm going to use. 1/3 is the depreciation per year. Okay. So I have the rate written down as 1/3. So here's how I'm going to calculate on the declining balance. I start out with the original cost. 1/3 is depreciated in the first year. That's going to be 30,000. The book value of the asset is original cost minus accumulated depreciation. So far, I've depreciated the asset 30,000. The book value is now down to 60,000. Whatever is the ending book value here becomes the beginning book value in the second year. 1/3 of that gets depreciated in the second year. That's 20,000. That now brings us down to 40,000, the book value. Again, original cost minus accumulated depreciation. Original cost is 90,000. Accumulated depreciation is 50. So 90 minus 50 gives me 40. That now becomes my beginning value in the third year. I start out by saying I want to depreciate it a third. Let's go to that calculation and see what happens. 40,000 multiplied by 1/3 gives me 13,333. Now, 13,333, if that's a depreciation, my book value will become 26,667. Now, this is a problem. And the reason this is a problem, let me show you what I'm talking about over here. Remember I said ignore that salvage value until you get to the last year? Well, this happens a lot sooner in the third year itself. This number ending book value is going below the salvage value. I don't want that to happen. So what I need to do over here is I'm going to strike this out over here, strike that out over here. And I'm going to say for year 3, the way I'll calculate depreciation expense is not a third, but I will start out by saying, I want this to be $30,000. I want this number to be 30,000, the ending number, the book value. My beginning is 40, beginning of the year. Therefore, I should depreciate 40 minus 30. I need to depreciate only $10,000. 40 minus 10 will give me 30. So in this double declining balance method, the first year I depreciated at 30,000. Second year I depreciated 20,000. Third year I depreciate 10,000 to get me that total of 60,000 I'm depreciating. So what you see over here is straight line method. We are assuming that I can evenly spread the cost over the 6-year estimated life. Usage method, as I started using the asset in year 5 itself, I was done with this asset. It's no longer useful. I'm not using the asset anymore. In the double declining balance method, I'm depreciating it very aggressively upfront, and then it drops off because I am charging the third depreciation on the declining balance. On the declining balance is how I'm charging the depreciation. For most assets, productive assets, the usage method or the double declining balance method makes more sense because the expense is going to match the revenue generation. Straight line method, the only reason it's popular is because it's easy to calculate and it kind of evenly projects my expense over the life of the asset. So these are 3 different methods of depreciation. We'll go over some more exercises dealing with depreciation just so that we can get familiar with it.